My acquaintance with Lady X began in the spring. The season itself often brings new hopes. We met at a rather lively assembly. She possessed a certain air of fashion. Her manners at first seemed quite agreeable to all. I recall thinking she might become a pleasant companion. One often seeks such connections in society. It is natural to wish for understanding friends. We found ourselves in each other's company quite often. There were morning calls and afternoon walks. We attended the same social gatherings in the evenings. Our conversations were usually light and polite. We spoke of the weather, of recent books, or of local news. Lady X always had something to say on these matters. She could speak very readily on many subjects. I listened, and I tried to find common ground between us. I hoped a true friendship might blossom from these small seeds. Deep within my heart, I held a quiet hope. I longed for a friendship of genuine feeling. I wished for a confidant, someone with whom I could share my thoughts, not merely the superficial talk of society, but someone who understood the heart's deeper sentiments. I observed Lady X with this hope in mind. I tried to see past the surface of her polite address. Perhaps I thought she too sought such a connection. Yet even in those early days, a small unease sometimes stirred. It was a feeling difficult to define precisely. Sometimes her smile did not quite reach her eyes, or a comment would seem to have a hidden edge. These were fleeting moments, easily dismissed. I told myself I was perhaps too critical, or maybe I was simply imagining things. One does not wish to find fault without good reason. So I pushed these faint whispers aside. My hopes for a sincere friendship with Lady X persisted. I truly wished for it to be real. I believed in the possibility of finding a kindred spirit. However, doubts began to cloud my mind more often. They were like small shadows, growing longer in the afternoon sun. These feelings were not easy to ignore entirely. I found myself questioning her words and actions more. It was a most uncomfortable state to be in. I preferred to think well of people. There were certain instances that fed these growing doubts. A carefully veiled insult, perhaps, disguised as a jest. Or a moment when I sought a little comfort or support. And I found only a cool indifference in her gaze. She might turn the conversation back to herself quickly, or she would offer advice that felt more like a criticism. These were not large betrayals, but small, sharp pricks. They made me wonder about her true feelings. I often replayed these moments in my thoughts. I frequently tried to dismiss these unsettling thoughts. I would tell myself that I was being overly sensitive. Perhaps I was misinterpreting her intentions entirely. It is easy to misunderstand others, after all. Lady X was admired by many in our circle. They seemed to see no fault in her manner. So, I often blamed myself for my unease. I thought perhaps I expected too much from a new acquaintance. Maybe all friendships had these small difficulties. Despite the doubts, a part of me still clung to hope. I hoped that time would prove my suspicions wrong. I wished that Lady X would show a warmer, truer side. Maybe there was a kindness hidden beneath her polished exterior. I wanted to believe in the good I had initially perceived, or perhaps the good I had wished to perceive. This inner conflict was quite challenging. It was a battle between my intuition and my desire for connection. The truth, when it finally revealed itself, was quite sudden. It happened at a rather grand dinner party. The room was filled with chatter and laughter. Candles cast a warm glow on the assembled guests. I was seated not far from Lady X. I had been trying to engage her in light conversation. She seemed more distant than usual that evening. Her replies were brief, her attention elsewhere. I felt a familiar sense of unease settle upon me. Then, I overheard a conversation not meant for my ears. Lady X was speaking to another lady nearby. She must have thought I was preoccupied. Her voice was low, but her words were unfortunately clear. She spoke of me with such disdain and mockery. She ridiculed my dress, my family, and my opinions. Every word was like a sharp, unexpected blow. The things she said were unkind and entirely untrue. They were designed to wound and to belittle. For a moment, I felt a cold shock run through me. It was as if the cheerful room had suddenly fallen silent. All the polite smiles and pleasantries faded away. I saw Lady X's face in a new harsh light. The mask of civility she usually wore had slipped completely. Her true feelings, her animosity, were laid bare. There was no mistaking the malice in her tone. It was a startling and unpleasant revelation to behold. In that instant, all my past doubts clicked into place. Those small, unsettling moments now made perfect sense. The veiled remarks, the cool indifference, the subtle dismissals. They were not figments of my imagination. They were genuine reflections of her character. It was a painful realization, certainly, but it was also strangely clarifying. The confusion I had felt for so long finally lifted. I saw the truth of our acquaintance clearly. Following this unwelcome discovery, I expected to feel great anger, or perhaps a deep sense of sorrow for the lost hope. Instead, a most surprising feeling washed over me. It was a profound sense of peace, quiet and deep. The constant questioning in my mind ceased. The struggle to understand Lady X was finally over. There was no more need to wonder about her sincerity. I knew where I stood, and that knowledge was calming. There was an immense relief in this newfound clarity. I no longer had to second-guess my own perceptions. I did not need to try so hard to win her approval. An approval that was clearly never going to be given. The burden of trying to maintain a false friendship lifted. It was like setting down a heavy weight I had not realized I was carrying. I could simply be myself, without pretense, and without the anxiety of her judgment. I accepted the truth of the situation fully. The friendship I had hoped for with Lady X was never real. It had been an illusion, a product of my own wishes. This acceptance did not bring bitterness, but a quiet understanding. Not all acquaintances are destined to become true friends, and sometimes people are not who they appear to be. It was a lesson learned, albeit a somewhat hard one, but a valuable lesson nonetheless. The greatest takeaway from this experience was the importance of trusting one's own feelings. Those faint whispers of unease had been correct all along. It is better to acknowledge the truth, even a disappointing one. For in truth, there is a strange kind of liberation. The peace that comes from seeing things clearly is precious. It allows one to move forward with more wisdom, and with a greater appreciation for genuine connections when they do appear.